Oh man, you guys are in for a whirlwind of information as we go through everything over the past 2 weeks. So, this was, I believe, the first or second session I had put the prong on her. And just like we did today, whenever I find the dog is very successful in the training room, then I will elevate their training and put them in a situation that is much more difficult. So, this is the back area where there are dogs barking. If you see that funny dog print there, there's lots of dogs in there. That's the small side. And then there's large dogs in the area to the right of me. So there's lots of sound. She had done stellar, just like she was doing in the training ring with her walking. So I took the prong off her and she complied as beautifully as well. The one thing was, I'm going to replay it actually right here. So it was this part right here. What I started to work on her since she was being successful is come when I call you. So my usual is to call the dog to me and then give them a big greeting reward. But this, for Zoe, look at those frog legs. That is where it triggers her into a piddling state. So you could see I stop and I stand. And then what I started to do with her from then on was I knew I had to restructure the greeting. She does great pretty much through. You'll see how she responds to body pressure, which is what we also work on at the doorway. So this will be a nice slow-mo of that. So I asked for the sit. I asked for the wait. When I started to take a step back because she was so used to the walking and being with me, she got up, but I stepped right back towards her when I give that cue, okay? And then I back up again. She steps forward. I give a and immediately step towards. I ask for the wait really strong and securely there. And then I give her just a moment of waiting before I call her to me. I continue to stand and I ask her to sit again. I pause for a moment, tell her good, and then I greet her by petting her just slightly under the chin. And what that does is it just kind of keeps her head lifted upwards, thus boosting her confidence in that moment and just helping her feel a little bit more secure than submissive. And it diminishes a little bit of that piddling that she does. So I would practice it that way when at home, just if she does have that piddling issue with you guys. So this is the session where I started to implement her being heavily rewarded in a space when I sit down. And it's a lot of just tossing the cookies. And then what I do is I call her to me and then I tell her go. And I kind of give her a second. She didn't figure it out right away. But then I coached her over there and then immediately rewarded her. So she went, I called her to me, and then after, you could see, I think that was 3 times, she got it down pretty good. So then I started to make it a little more complex, moving about the room, and I was in similar spaces with it. But then there's one point where I go to the other side of the room and send her to it, yeah, right about here. And I was just seeking that she had the understanding of wherever I was at in the room, when I said go, I wanted her to end up at that spot, and that was where she'd be rewarded. So I did reward her for the recall and coming to me because that's something I'm still just heavily building into her. So I want her to always have it conditioned when I say here, she comes. And so the other piece to that was I was opening the door and then sending her to her spot. So I was layering in different distractions, like right here. Door opens, maybe you're greeting someone, maybe you're getting a package or something. And there is one point where she starts to bark. And I think it's here. Yeah, so she barked, someone came in, and when I told her go, she was still just too triggered by the barking. So I went back to kind of kindergarten steps and walked with her to the space. And once she was inside, she didn't bark anymore. So that's where giving your dog some structure when they do get triggered like that is going to help them cope through that situation. So here was where we were really, really working with her impulse when it came to being in a space and leaving it up to her to make the decision to continue to be there. because when especially sitting on the floor, almost all dogs take that as a greeting. So then we were looking at no matter what is happening in the room, when I say go, she should go to her spot. So, and then we all sat down, and I think that's where she got really hung up on the cookie that was caught over in the corner. So I made it a little harder for her, and I started to move that baggie around. So once I picked that up, she saw that as an opportunity to come. But then we placed her back, and then the disengagement piece where we started to look at each other and talk to each other, and we were just kind of like, okay, Zoe, you're kind of in your spot now, and we're gonna be people. And she got up in that moment as well. So you could see, like, even though the training room is small and it doesn't have a lot, there's so many complex layers that go on when it comes to training and simulating these practices at home, because it's just the same impulse all over the spectrum. Whether she gets up because we start to have a conversation in here or at home, the behavior we're looking for and the expectation we have is still the same. So learning the skills in here, I think you guys had a really, really great session today, and mastered it almost immediately. And then looking at transferring the go to bed cue on just a flat surface. So she was a little confused at first. She was like, wait, this is different. But then once you implement those clear, concise, consistent cues, she then had a little better understanding. So once we sent her back, she was like, oh, okay, this is the spot. So she did awesome. And then the next part coming up is a little bit of walking work that we did, as well as doorway work. So it was, we had taken the prong off, and we were doing just basic drills here. So she was getting a lot of feedback, and I think there was a lot of good instincts going on as far as like when she got too far away, what to do. So instead of relying too much on the hand target when she gets too far away, when we're walking and the leash is on, it is okay to give a little like pop and a little like tug when she starts to get a little too far. The reason why I have you guys hold the loop to kind of practice is because I want you guys to get in the habit of just being really relaxed when walking her. Because she does great. She knows it. She can get a little ahead of herself. But overall, look at her. She's doing awesome. So the next piece coming up is the doorway wait. And this is, I left the audio intact on the recording because I want you to listen in on what I was getting at when we were giving her too much feedback. So the things that were happening where you'd ask her to wait, and then your voice would fluctuate a little bit, and then there would be no follow through after we gave a command. It was just kind of command, 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 command. And there was no like, yes, you're doing it right, or no, you're doing it wrong. And when we did give a no, you're doing it wrong, there was no follow through as far as consequence. So I want you to listen in and kind of see what I was seeing, and then we'll kind of reflect on it. Ask for the wait again, okay? Wait. All right, I think you can do it. Let's go. Wait. Sit. Sit. Good job. Sit. Sit. Good job. Sit. Sit. Use your feet. Yep. And step back. Yep. Good. Step. Go. Come back in with her. Yeah. Good job. Good job. Come on. Yep. Good. Start again. So right immediately from the top. Good. Sit. Sit. Good job. So same thing. So if you step out and she does that creeper move, use your feet and kind of like step into her, okay? Wait. Like right there, move that other, okay, that's good. Wait. Yeah, perfect. No. See how the body pressure put her back? Because think of if you're at your door at home, and she's trying to like do one of these, and she's not on the leash, okay? That's what we want to kind of simulate here, all right? So we're looking for, and this should be practice for her, whatever, going in and out always. because it'll add the structure. Ah, no. It'll add the structure of whenever I pass through a doorway, I sit and wait first. Then when I exit, I sit and wait. So if she ever were to get out again, her brain's gonna go into like autopilot and be like, okay, I'm out the door now, I'll pause here. Yeah. So go ahead and get her attention again. Zoey. Good. Good girl. Good girl. Wait. Wait. Good. Sit. Good. Wait. Sit. Yep. Get back. Sit. Stay. Wait. So there was just a lot of excess feedback happening and not a whole lot of follow through. So it got better over time. And the instincts, again, are there, as when you can see when she's messing up a little bit, you do start to correct and give some verbal feedback. But I want you to get in the habit of, when you give a command, really try to practice saying it once when it comes to those follow through commands. We want to think about our commands as there's commands that we want to get the dog to respond to and do something, or there's encouragement, okay? The encouragement is our good, yes, nice. And then there's also the, nope, you're getting it wrong, like at, and then there, after like one of those, a no or at, there needs to be some sort of follow through or redirect. So our good cue, our negative cue, and then for giving a command, we want to give our commands, such as like right here, we're doing this way, let's go. So our commands should happen when we are taking our turn. All right, that's our this way cue. As we are about to turn, so we want to just kind of like, it's kind of like signaling our blinker on for her. It's like, hey, we're going to turn now, so you better pay attention. And let's go. Let's go is our, we're starting off point. And if she stops to sniff something, or you hear or you feel a pressure on the leash, you say, let's go, we're continuing to move. Everything else when the leash is loose is good, nice, yes, good. So when it comes to the wait, there was wait, and then there was a few stays in there. There was a lot of ahs, and it became very like cluttered as far as information. So the steps would be, you ask her to wait at the doorway. You take your step through the doorway. If she gets up, you give a and then immediately step back towards her and use your body pressure to move her back. And this should all be practiced on a leash, but you want to practice using your body pressure to reset her. And then once she sits again, because she will, she understands that, you mark, yes, good. You can ask for your wait once more in that moment. Take your step back. Give her probably 5 to 6 seconds right now. Just help her be successful. 5 to 6 seconds in Zoe world is a long time. When she is successful, yes, okay to release her to come to you. And then once she gets to you, asking for that wait again. You can do sit and wait. You can do wait alone. She is most likely to sit paired with that because she's so good at sitting. It's up to you what you want your criteria to be with those words, and we can definitely go over that stuff. But I want you guys to start to get in the habit when you practice this, like giving her that really functional feedback and those really cute, clear communication signals, because it just gets, when Zoe's just in her mode, she does not speak our language, and it gets so confusing for her on what she's supposed to do and when she's getting it wrong and when she's really getting it right. So practice that this week, and then I will see her Wednesday. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me, and I will talk to you soon.